Welcome into the I-80 Boys College Football Show, Miami versus Florida, the preview and prediction video you've all been waiting for. This is going to probably determine who runs that state of Florida, right, Chris? I mean, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, with Florida State losing to Georgia Tech a couple days ago.
Right, so this is for bragging rights right now, right? Let's see who can get the first win down there. So, all right, I'll start us off. I'll take Miami. So, look, this has got to have a year for Mario Cristobal, right? I mean, he's currently 12-13 at Miami. I mean, just got to do something this year with all that talent he's been able to get down to Miami. Look, he and the Hurricanes need to get off to a great start. You know, beating Florida in the swamp is the best way you can do that. We know quarterback Cam Ward, he's coming over from Washington State. He put up 3,900 yards and 33 touchdowns last year. Did pretty well there in the Pac-12 send-off, if you will. You know, this is really great for Miami, right? Is Florida, they've been pretty suspect the last couple years in their pass coverage, right? We know that. Also, you know, Miami did a great job last year. They only allowed 16 sacks, okay? And we know that Florida lost a bunch of pass rushing expertise on that side of the ball this year, right? And so that's going to be an area where I'm going to really look in this game. Can Florida generate that pass rush on Miami? That'll be the big key for me. Look, I look for Xavier Restrepo and Jacoby George to lead the way in terms of receiving, right? They combined for almost 2,000 yards last year and 15 touchdowns. Okay, that was with a combination of different people throwing to them, primarily Tyler Van Dyke and then other people, you know, throughout the year, but whatever. They also got running back Damian Martinez. You got to remember him, the Oregon State running back, right? He was a very sought after when he hit the portal. So I'm going to look for them to probably pound the rock with him early, right? He put up over 1,200 yards last year, 9 touchdowns at Oregon State last year. Pretty good season for him. Defensively, Miami was pretty good last year, right? Only giving up 30 points or more 3 times last year, Chris, in the regular season. So that's pretty good. Florida last year gave up 39 sacks in 12 games. Okay, that ranked 114th in the country. So look for guys like Ruben Bain and Francisco Mwaga. I'm pretty sure I butchered the hell out of that, but I'll learn how to say it on Saturday when they're calling his name. They combined for 15 sacks last year. So I'm going to look for those guys to kind of feast on that Florida offensive line. But we also know Miami was a top 15 last year in rushing defense. So I look for them to try to bottle up the run game, and they're going to force Graham Mertz to throw this football in this game. I would say the weak spot for Miami on defense was probably they allowed, a lot of passing yards last year, right? So if Mertz can get some time, if he can get some time back there and that O-line can hold up, Mertz might be able to kind of pick them apart in that one. With that being said, I want to hear from you about the Gators, Chris, your favorite team.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Look, I was wrong about Graham Mertz last year. He came out and played a great season. He did. So great that he completed damn near 73% of his passes, which was 3rd best in the country, Christian. So, yeah, pretty efficient last year. Now, here's the thing, though. Only 3 picks as well, which was really good. So I mentioned that. That's great. Here's the thing, though. How does the O-line hold up, though, especially in this game? You talked about it. You alluded to it with Miami and their defense. O-line's got to be better. They were very up and down last year for Florida. They didn't establish the run most games. And speaking of establishing the run, Etienne's off to Georgia, right? Who's going to step up there? That's one of the question marks I have with this offense in Florida. I also have a huge question mark as far as who's going to be the receiver this year, right? Ricky Pearsall, kid was a stud. He's off to the NFL with the 49ers right now. Is it Eugene Wilson? Who is it? Who's going to step up and break through out of that receiving core? Now, I don't want to sit here and talk about the offense all day, but defensively, you mentioned it. The pass defense, not been very good at Florida for quite some time now under Billy Napier. It hasn't. Did you know last year, they gave up 27 points per game, Christian. They only had 3 interceptions as a team, dead last in the country last year out of 133 teams. So if you're Florida, got to create some turnovers here. We know that. That's one of the staples of having a good defense is be able to get pressure and get turnovers, right? So, like I said, with Florida, there's not a lack of talent on this team. They got players. They did decent in the transfer portal. They recruit well. I get all that. But against Miami, a team that's got a ton of hype right now, and this being an in-state rivalry game, Christian, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this one. This is probably going to be my most watched game, to be honest with you, this coming weekend. Now, I'm going to give you my prediction here, Christian. I'll kick it over to you for yours. But the fact that this game is being played at the Swamp, now Florida, I think they're underdogs here by about 2.5, 3 points. I'm taking Miami in this one, 27, Florida 20. Christian, I want to hear your thoughts and your prediction on this game.
I could see it. I could see it. But give me Miami 34, Florida 24.
Damn. Okay. Okay. How do you see this one playing out then? I mean, do you think this thing is close at half? Do you see this thing, just you see Miami and just running away with this off the rip, or how do you see this game going? Kind of interesting to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think it'll be, for several reasons. Like you said, I think at the half, it'll maybe be a little bit close. I think Miami will kind of get their footing, figure some things out, be able to kind of do some things down the road there. Look, I don't think Florida's going to be a bad team. I just think that, Florida's got a lot of questions on that defensive side of the ball. I think they'll be able to put up points, but at the same time, the biggest question mark that we brought up in this, can their offensive line, they've retooled, they've gotten some new pieces, but are they going to be better? We say the same thing every year about Iowa's offense, right? Oh, they can't get any worse. They figure out ways to get worse. Okay. So, just because you get new players doesn't always mean that it's going to be better, right? There's some gap years, there's some learning there. You also have to, at a certain point, look at the coaching. Can they develop and stuff like that? Look, I think ultimately there's a lot of questions that Florida has. I think Miami has very similar questions as well. But I think Miami, I like Cam Ward, man. I know it's a new system. I know he's on the road in the swamp, but I think that guy's a baller. And I think he can come out, and if things break down, he can make certain things happen, right? Which would be a pretty good thing for Miami. Like we said, Chris, I think it's just going to really boil down to, who can kind of play the best on defense. And to me right now, I have more faith in Miami about that. What are your thoughts?
No, I agree. And, I see this game going a little bit differently than you do. I think this thing will be close into the fourth quarter. The fact that it's played at the Swamp, I think, is huge for Florida. Florida is tough to beat there, regardless of who's there. But I like when it comes down to me, when I look at games like this that are tightly contested, I look at two things, actually. I look at who's the better quarterback and who has the better coach. And there's no doubt in my mind, Cristobal is the better coach. You guys know my thoughts on Billy Napier. And then when it comes down to the quarterback play, Cam Ward, man, I mean, like I said, Graham Mertz had a really good year last year. I don't think Graham Mertz is a scrub. I don't. But Cam Ward, to me, man, was one of the biggest additions that Miami got this offseason. I think that's going to be huge for them because they already have a ton of talent, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, they're much more sound than Florida has been. I mean, the good thing about this, though, Christian, these games aren't played on paper. They're going to be played on Saturday, man, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, Chris, let me ask you this question. I mean, obviously two coaches going into this year, kind of similar issues, very similar records, right? All that stuff. Both on the hot seat. Is this game going to determine who probably gets fired first?
That's a tough question. That's a good question. I don't want to say it does, but I think it might add to it, down the road. With this being week, 1 in the first game of the season for both these teams, I think Cristobal's got a little more leeway than Napier. Now, you said it. Yeah, the records are very similar at these programs. But I don't have questions about Cristobal, his recruiting, or really even his play calling. I should say it isn't his play calling, but it's more just his boneheaded decisions late in games. Now, he does have a lot of talent. And Miami hasn't won an ACC title the entire 20 years they've been there. They got an opportunity this year. I mean, you look at any betting book, you look at anybody talking on ESPN or Fox, everybody thinks Miami's got a really good chance this year to do something special. So there's a lot of they got to live up to these expectations. The same thing could be said about Florida. Now, Florida's schedule is brutal. I don't think anybody's out there thinking Florida's winning the SEC title this year. Maybe other than some of these delusional Florida fans out there, but it's not going to happen this year. But what Florida needs to do is make a damn bowl game, and there's an opportunity for that. And how that gets started is by beating Miami, your in-state rival.